Turn one soul ring.
When you guys were like younger, like little kids, did you ever, and like somebody was eating something? This is about our conversation we were having about the sandwich.
My sandwich.
Did you guys ever did that ever occur to you? It's like, oh, I'll just shove this object through the phone to the other person.
No.
Like that would work? No?
Can't say I have.
Okay.
I don't think so. I think it might be fun to assume that things could travel through the phone. But I never tried to shove a sandwich through the phone.
No, I know. I never tried to shove anything through the phone. It was. All right. Well, let's start the show.
Pew pew.
Finger guns. Hello and welcome to Turn One Soul Ring, everybody. I'm Kevin.
I'm Eric.
And I'm Riley.
And today on the show, we're going to be talking about our favorite cards from the upcoming Core 2021 set. This set is filled with some great new cards as well as some much needed reprints. The set is also all about Teferi. That being said, it doesn't have a storyline and it doesn't have any story spotlights, which is kind of a bummer.
I think that's how the core sets go. So you're kind of like, okay.
Well, like funnily enough, I don't know if I knew that before I did some research for this set review, which perhaps makes me sound ignorant. But anyways, this core set is closely related to the upcoming Jumpstart set that will be released in a couple weeks. 2 weeks, I guess 2 weeks from July 3rd, which is when this set comes out. And then we're also going to be releasing a set review for Jumpstart 2 weeks from the release of this episode. We have the phasing mechanic returning for this set, a mechanic that we haven't seen in Standard since Weatherlight. Riley, can you explain how phasing works?
Yeah, so phasing currently I guess it only appears on Teferi Master of Time, which is the new Teferi Planeswalker of the set, and we'll have an opportunity to review him in a little bit more detail as we get into it. But I think it's summarized very well on on his reminder text. His ability is -3 loyalty. Target creature you don't control phases out, and in brackets it says treat it and anything attached to it, so that would be equipments or auras, as though they don't exist until its controller's next turn. Notably, like when it comes to phasing in or phasing out for a permanent that has phasing or is phased out, when they phase back in, it's like the very first thing that happens in the turn. So before you untap, before you do anything, your permanents that are phased out phase in at the start of the turn. Mm-hmm. So notably, anything that was phased out that phases back in at the beginning of the turn is considered to be there since the beginning of your turn. So Summoning Sickness doesn't apply to those permanents. And it also doesn't change zones, which is really weird because usually we're used to this idea of, the thing exiles and comes back onto the battlefield.
Right.
But phasing doesn't actually change zones. So there's no enter the battlefield or leave the battlefield abilities. So very bizarre mechanic. I'm glad they only dealt with phase out instead of phasing the mechanic itself, where things are phasing out and in, because that would just be a mess.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, basically, phases out, it's gone, doesn't exist, comes back at the beginning of their next turn. It essentially has haste, more or less, right?
Right.
It just doesn't have Summoning Sickness. It can tap and things like that.
Yeah, and any permanents that were attached to it are still attached to it. It's not exactly it's not the most intuitive mechanic because it does feel like an exile type effect, like you said. So it's I just wanted to sort of explain it in a little bit more detail because a lot of people myself including, have never really used phasing cards.
Yeah, and then I think also a lot of people are just going to be at that mindset, like, okay, it's back on the battlefield. Like, if it has an ETB effect, you're like, I get that. And it's like, no, you don't. Yeah, it's different and weird.
So we're also seeing a common mechanic of the game being given a keyword in this set, and that keyword is mill. And mill is a slang term that we've all used for a number of years, but it's just
it ain't slang anymore, baby.
No way, it's the real deal. And it's anytime you take a card from the top of a library and put it into that player's graveyard. That's what it is. So it's pretty straightforward, and now it's not slang anymore. This set also introduces the dog creature type, and it erratas the hound creature type on any creature card that was a hound into a dog. So no more hounds, everybody.
They're all dogs.
Yeah, get those hounds out of there.
Yep, and
Treat them as doggos.
Dog tribal is a thing for the first time ever.
Yay.
Yeah, you know it.
And just one last interesting detail about this set that I didn't know before we get to the cards is that Spark Hunter Manticore, which is a card we're going to talk about in a little bit more detail, in the set review is the first creature card to have protection from planeswalkers. So I think that'll probably be something that we see more of in the coming sets.
Cool.
Yeah. I love that card. But of course, we'll have an opportunity to talk about it.
We will get there
a little bit more.
Before we get to the cards, though, Eric, how can listeners get in touch with us?
People can find us on Instagram at Turn One Soul Ring the podcast. If you want to send us a direct message, let us know what's going on. If you like our podcast or not, you can get us Turn One Soul Ring the podcast at gmail.com. And we also upload everything to YouTube. So Turn One Soul Ring the podcast, and make sure to type in the podcast there to find us exactly.
Bingo. Thank you. We're going to start this review by going over some of the notable reprints in this set before we get to the cards in color order. And I'm just going to run through these quickly, and then we can talk about any of them individually. But
Sure.
we have Azusa, Lost But Seeking, Containment Priest, Grim Tutor, Heroic Intervention, Massacre Worm, and Ugin the Spirit Dragon. I was doing a little research into Containment Priest, and for whatever reason, I didn't know that it had never been printed into a standard set. So this is the first time it's actually been legal in standard and modern and of course historic and pioneer. But even in standard with those, I don't know how prevalent the Luca decks still are, but this will shut that down, like the pulling the creature out of the deck, right?
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was originally printed as a Commander product, right?
Right.
As part of the precons.
Yeah.
I think it was in
Ultimate Masters.
the Derevi deck initially.
Right, yes. It was originally printed in Commander 2014, so that was the monocolored year, so that must have been Nahiri that it was printed. But it was reprinted it was reprinted as an invocation in Amonkhet or Hour of Devastation. Would that have been legal and standard? Like the invocations? No. And then after that, it was reprinted in Ultimate Masters, but of course, that's not legal in standard or modern or anything like that. So this is the first time.
Yeah, I think it's really cool because this is definitely a powerful card, and to have this in modern, I think is pretty sweet. So
yeah,
decks like Death and Taxes and stuff have a new toy.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah. And so if there's any decks that are doing some gross things, like definitely the like hollow ones and stuff,
right? Or
the deck that, like hollow ones is still okay, but it's the Vengevine that comes back in the graveyard.
Yeah.
This also kind of super hoses a lot of stuff that Dredge is trying to do.
Yeah, that too. Yeah. Oh yeah, good old-fashioned hate bear. So another card here is Grim Tutor, and Grim Tutor, I'm just going to read it quickly because it is a very old card. Grim Tutor is 1 and 2 black for a sorcery. Search your library for a card and put that card into your hand, and then shuffle your library. You lose 3 life. So it's just a much worse Vampiric Tutor, or worse. It's a worse demonic tutor, right? Yeah, because Vampiric goes on top of your library, which is bad. Vampiric Tutor still fantastic card, don't get me wrong. But this is a card that was close to $300. It hadn't been reprinted in a very long time, and the pre-sale prices that I've been seeing in Canadian are about $50. So I think this card is kind of having a Imperial Recruiter effect, where the demand isn't as high as the supply was low.
Yeah, and I thought it was pretty interesting and cool that they decided to reprint this card just like into a core set. Mm-hmm. It's just so old, it was so pricey, and it was just because it was like hard to come by.
Yeah.
And so Yeah, it's cool that they decided to print that off. So
Yeah, and they printed it Mythic, so it's not going to be crazy printed, but a lot of these cards on the list that we just went over are more for commander play. Like Grim. You're not going to first pick Grim Tutor in limited. I think the only card on this list that I would really, maybe not the only card, but a limited bomb in this list is Massacre Worm. So
Yeah, or Ugin.
yeah, I'm
Or
first
Ugin.
picking Ugin.
Yeah.
Get wrecked.
Yeah. Yeah, you're done. But all these cards just like needed reprints, and all these cards see a lot of commander play. Like Heroic Intervention is a green staple, and the price of that card has already been cut in half.
Yeah. Yeah, I think like Azusa, Heroic Invention, and Massacre Worm are great reprints. They were all creeping up there too high, and so it's really nice to see these reprinted.
Yeah, just higher than they have any business being.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like these are kind of staples of the commander format, and they should be accessible, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I really like the idea or the direction they went with the reprints in this set.
Yeah.
And you got to sell a core set, right?
You do.
Yeah, well, it sold me. I've already pre-ordered my box.
Yeah,
so.
and I haven't bought. I did also, and I haven't pre-ordered a box, and I don't know what the last set I did that for was.
Yeah, I mean, who knew? Like, box toppers didn't sell me. It's the cards in the set that managed to sell me.
Yeah.
What sold me was the 2 Jumpstart packs that come with the box, the buy a box promo.
Like, I get 2 free Jumpstart packs. I'm in.
I'll play Jumpstart by myself.
Yeah. And then, of course, Ugin is getting a price drop as well from the reprint. But this card is just super powerful, so it's kind of... It sucks that the price is so high, but I mean, it is just one of those, like, seeking power cards, so...
Yeah, and we all know this, but cards that are colorless and see play in multiple formats just have so much more application because they can go in any deck, and they, their price just grows over time. Like Walking Ballista is a great example of that.
Great example. Ugin's also going to be pretty interesting, I think, in Standard, and could be kind of scary.
Oh, God.
One of those reasons...
Ramp decks don't have enough tools.
Right? So you're going to be ramping into Ugin. But the other crazy thing is that we still have Nissa, who turns her lands into creatures. And then you play Ugin and exile each permanent with colored CMC. But your lands are still going to stay there as well. So you're still going to have creatures on the board, and your opponent's going to have no permanents.
Yeah, so if they don't scoop to the Ugin, what is it? It's -X?
Yeah.
Then you can just swing in for lethal. So you got it made.
Yeah. So I definitely see that deck being powered up with the printing of Ugin in this set.
Oh yeah.
Just another reason to stick to limited and commander, I guess.
That's right. You said it, Riley. You said it.
I do have a blue-green ramp deck, so I am going to play some Ugin in Standard.
Yeah, I'll probably try it in Arena, but I don't see myself investing in a paper standard deck anytime soon.
Oh, no, me neither.
Yeah,
but
of course.
Arena, for sure.
Yeah, no, and the same thing. Like if I was playing Arena, I wouldn't play paper standard.
Yeah.
So we are going to get to the new cards here. We're going to go through these in color pie order as usual. Wooburg, starting with white. The first card we have here is Angelic Ascension, and I'll kick it off here. Why not? So we have Angelic Ascension. It is 1 and a white for an uncommon instant. Exile target creature or planeswalker. Its controller creates a 4/4 white angel creature token with flying. What's great about this card is that you can, in a pinch, target your own creature or planeswalker.
Yeah, that's what I thought was really cool
sure.
about this card. It's cool, very, very versatile. Because it's also being able to target a planeswalker. So it's nice to have some planeswalker removal. Your opponent does get a 4/4 angel with flying, which is kind of scary. But yeah, the 2 mana, you can also turn like one of your like 1/1 or 2/2 like creatures or tokens into a big 4/4 angel with flying. So
And there's prowess in this set, so if you needed to get like a prowess trigger, this could come in handy there too. And you get a 4/4 white angel creature token. There's
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting to see this kind of design because in formats like limited and standard, if this sees play, well, for sure it's going to see play in limited, but it's almost incentivizing you to target your own stuff to upgrade your creature. Like, you play a 1-drop or a 2-drop and then you upgrade it into a 4/4 angel.
Yeah.
But then in Commander, it's this versatile removal spell at instant speed that, sure, you're giving them a 4/4 angel, which is a reasonable threat, but it's not the end of the world, right?
Yeah, and much less of a threat in Commander where your life total is twice as much and you have 3 other opponents that you can point that angel at.
Yeah, you're like, I'll get rid of your Blight Steel and just give you a 4/4 angel. That's fine.
Absolutely.
But I definitely love having these cheap, interactive exile effects.
Yeah. Next up, we have Basri Ket, our first new Planeswalker. So he's 1 and 2 white for a 3 loyalty Planeswalker. The +1 ability, you put a 1/1 counter on up to 1 target creature. It gains indestructible until end of turn. The -2 is whenever 1 or more non-token creatures attack this turn, create that many 1/1 white soldier creature tokens that are tapped and attacking. And then the -6, you get an emblem with, at the beginning of combat in your turn, create a 1/1 white soldier creature token, then put a 1/1 counter on each creature you control. So I think this -2 is very strong. White weenies is definitely a thing, and you can -2 and just like double your whole board or something. So that seems pretty good.
So this is just Gideon, right?
It's pretty close to Gideon.
It's Gideon with a haircut. Yeah.
I mean, he looks like Gideon.
Yeah, it's fair.
It's close.
He feels like Gideon. It's like,
yeah.
If it looks like a duck and it walks like a duck, it's Basri Ket.
They were like, say. How do we make Gideon not be a creature? Let's make Basri Ket.
Yeah. Let's kill him off and then replace him. Next up, we've got Basri's Lieutenant. So for 3 and a white, you get a Human Knight. It's a rare. 3/4, Vigilance, protection from multicolored. When Basri's Lieutenant enters the battlefield, you put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. And whenever it or another creature you control dies, if it had a +1/+1 counter on it, create a 2/2 White Knight creature token with Vigilance.
This does a lot of work for 4 mana for that kind of investment.
And I mean, I was looking into it a little bit, and there are a few ways to set up infinite combos if you have like a sacrifice outlet and a creature to die on the board as well. You can basically just keep looping that infinite enter the battlefield death trigger and likely find a way to kill your opponents. So I mean, I could see it seeing play in Commander in the right deck.
Yeah.
But even alone, like, I mean, at its very base, it's a 4/5 with Vigilance and protection from multicolored that will replace itself when it dies.
Yeah.
So it's not the end of the world, but I don't know if it's viable in Standard, which is disappointing. I mean, you see all these great creatures, and it's just disappointing because Standard's such a gong show that it's likely not going to see play.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like him replacing himself just seems kind of slow. But the +1/+1 counter themes are pretty cool, and it definitely like obviously synergizes quite well with Basri Ket himself. So protection from multicolored is also pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd pack one,
like,
pick one. This guy in limited for sure.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. He's a bomb in limited for sure. Yeah, and there's a +1/+1 counter theme going on as well in limited.
Right.
So
yeah,
easy.
Next up, we have Mangar, the Diplomat. Mangar's back, and he costs 3 and a white for a legendary creature human cleric at Mythic Rare. He's a 2/4 with lifelink. Whenever an opponent attacks with creatures, That's just a funny way to put it. Sorry. Whenever an opponent attacks with creatures, if 2 or more of those creatures are attacking you and or planeswalkers you control, draw a card. Whenever an opponent casts their second spell each turn, draw a card. It is really nice to see mono white getting some card draw in Commander beyond, as a commander, beyond having to play a SRAM deck that's a build around for either auras or equipments, because that's just it's fun, but it's narrow.
Yeah, and Mark Rosewater even took the opportunity to speak to it as well, just considering that his design philosophy for white has shifted a little bit, and understanding that card draw is pretty central to the game. Like, it's pretty fundamental for the game.
Right.
So he kind of took a shift in his tone for white card draw and ranked card draw in the form of, for each color, it's blue is the best at drawing cards, then black and green are second best, then red is third, and white is fourth. So that was kind of interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is great. This is awesome. I'd be open to either playing this in my existing mono white decks or making a mono white deck around it and just kind of playing the diplomat and trying to be political.
That's what we'll call you.
And I never even noticed until you said it, but it's really funny that they say whenever an opponent attacks with creatures, it's like, what else are you attacking with?
Yeah, it's not Hearthstone where you have a weapon attached.
Yeah. The only time something can attack is if it is a creature.
Yeah, it might just be worded this way to make it a little bit easier to program. But really, I mean, you could say, like, if an opponent attacks you with 2 or more creatures.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? You think that would be pretty straightforward, but who knows?
All right, next up, we got 9 lives. It's 1 and 2 white for a rare enchantment. The enchantment itself has hexproof. If a source would deal damage to you, prevent that damage and put an incarnation counter on 9 lives. When there are 9 or more incarnation counters on 9 lives, exile it. When 9 lives leaves the battlefield, you lose the game.
So I'm not sure where this card will be played specifically, but I'm definitely going to give it the flavor win for this out of this entire set.
Oh yeah, it's cute, it's fun.
Yeah. And because I mean, realistically, it'll stop like 8 different instances of damage, and like that's kind of hard to especially in a game of Commander, it's kind of hard to quantify, how good that is, how powerful that is, but like I said, the flavor is just so potent here that I just wanted to talk about it for but a moment.
It does scoop pretty hard to Cyclonic Rift. But it's pretty fun. Like, I mean, you could do a similar thing with Solemnity as you could with like Phyrexian Unlife.
Yeah.
And just try to prevent yourself from dying. Mm-hmm. Unless somebody has a massive bounce spell.
Yep.
Because it's when it leaves the battlefield, which is the...
Yeah.
But I do think this may see play in Standard, because it does kind of like, extend your life. If you're kind of dying and it's like your opponent has a big trampling creature, but that's the only thing that's getting through. It's only one source, and it can give you extra turns to try and like eke out the win in that game. So
yeah,
I think it's interesting that way. And then it also kind of combos with a card we're going to talk about later.
We'll put a pin in that.
I do love the artwork in 9 Lives, though. It's a bunch of cats in the clouds from like previous cat characters.
Yeah,
it's pretty great.
Yeah,
that's where it's awesome.
Of Lion King when Simba talks to Mufasa.
Yeah, don't
classic.
Yeah. You don't need to bring back those memories.
Oh,
what?
It's very sad.
It's sad, but I mean, in the end, it's happy.
Yeah.
Well, I guess
Simba's got to go through some stuff, but it ends up okay. It turns him into the man lion he needed to be.
Yeah.
The man lion.
Mufasa's totally at the top left of that card. Totally.
Yeah, I see that.
That's him.
He could also be at the like top right.
Top
as
right.
well.
That mane's a little long and flowing though.
Yeah, you're right. It is more
All
like
right.
like a wig. Anyways, let's move on.
And
All right. Next up, we've got pack leader. So here's where the real meat and potatoes is of the set. We got 1 and a white for a dog. It's a rare. It's a 2/2. Other dogs you control get +1/+1. And whenever pack leader attacks, prevent all combat damage that would be dealt this turn to dogs you control,
Woof.
including itself.
Nice.
Yeah. Woof indeed. Like I love, as far as lords go, like 2-mana lords, like pack leader is where it's at. Now, unfortunately, in doing a Scryfall search for dogs, it's a little sad. But
did you remember to add in
pack leader? Yeah, when those dogs come around, when those dogs are finally let out, pack leader is where it's at.
if you do a search on Scryfall, do they include the hounds already?
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. That's good. But yeah, this is a solid card even without any dogs because he doesn't take damage when he attacks.
Yeah, you can just keep swinging
Yeah, basically.
in.
Just a resilient 2/2. I'd first pick this in limited.
Yeah, he looks like some kind of terrier cross or something. Either way, he's a good boy.
Yeah, looks like a Scottish terrier.
Yeah.
Next up, we have Selfless Savior, another good boy. It's one white for a dog, uncommon 1/1. Sacrifice Selfless Savior. Another target creature you control gains indestructible until end of turn. I always like effects like this that just can like one shot for 1 mana protect your best creature.
Your best friend.
And
His
I'm
best
pretty sure
friend,
we've
yeah.
already had this card. It was just a human, I think, before.
Yeah, selfless bodyguard.
Yeah.
But it gave protection, which is protection from a color. So this is a little bit of an updated version, but I really like. I mean, we've had a couple like Aslet of Life's Bounty was an example where you had to pay 1 and then sacrifice it to give another creature protection from a certain color, and then you had I think it's from Ravnica Allegiance. You had 1/3 dog for 1 mana that. Same kind of cost. You pay 1, sacrifice it, target creature gains indestructible until end of turn.
Right.
So this is a similar effect, but you don't have to pay that mana, which is really powerful.
Yeah, that makes a big difference.
Yeah. And the flavor text is just intense.
She raised him from an orphan pup and gave him a life of love. With his last act, he thanked her. Ooh, yeah, that hurts.
Yeah. It gets you right in the feels.
No kidding. Poor guy.
Like, such a good boy.
Also, how much fun would it be to like strap up your favorite dog with armor like that? It's pretty bomb.
Pretty good.
Yeah, they would hate it though. If you've ever dressed an animal, you know how much they dislike it. They just lay down.
No, but mine really likes it though. Really. He looks so happy.
He look at him. He's thrilled.
But honestly, like as far as commander goes, I might actually consider slotting this into my Teshar combo deck, just because I already run a selfless bodyguard as a form of protection. So it's hard to make a cut in that deck because it's a really tight combo. So we'll see, but it's definitely something that could see play in there.
Well, if you do slot it in, just put a little post-it over the flavor text so that when you draw the card, you don't get upset when you
yeah, so you don't see my tell.
Yeah.
My tell of just weeping.
A single salty
weeping
tear.
into my hand.
All right, next up, we got a common card. Swift Response. 1 of anything and a white to destroy target tapped creature.
Notably, it's an instant. So I think I had suggested this as part of the list because the fact that it's an instant. So we've seen a number of these cards in limited before where they're sorcery speed and they destroy a target tapped creature, which generally means that the creatures had to have already attacked you and got in for damage before you can actually turn around and destroy it. So even just flipping through the set, there's not a ton of vigilance running around, so I don't think that's going to come up too often. So this is just a form of premium removal in limited.
Yeah. There's nothing quite as satisfying as delivering a good kick to the face. Isn't that the truth?
Like if you're in white and black, destroying something for 2 mana is actually like a really good rate. And like you're saying, like if you can still kill it, like if the opponent swings in for the attack, before it hits you, you still get to destroy it. So
Okay, we're gonna move on to blue.
Next up, we've got Baron Tolarian Archmage. For 1 blue, you get a legendary human wizard. It's a 2/2, and when Baron enters the battlefield, return up to 1 other target creature or planeswalker to its owner's hand. And it has another ability. At the beginning of your end step, if a permanent was put into your hand from the battlefield this turn, draw a card. So notably, it's a separate ability. It doesn't matter if Baron returned a permanent from the battlefield to your hand. It just has to see at some point in the turn that something was bounced to your hand.
Well, it's certainly good to see Baron again after all these years.
Obviously, I've already been brewing around this card in Commander. Just I like the idea of using the hand as a zone to bounce things between. I've put together a retraction helix themed combo deck using Baron as the pilot. He might not be the strongest pilot, but of course, being something new, I thought it'd be fun to tinker around with him.
He seems like a lot of fun, for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Next up, we have Discontinuity. Discontinuity is a mythic rare instant. It costs 3 and 3 blue. As long as it's your turn, this spell costs 2 and 2 blue less to cast. So it costs 1 and a blue to cast if it's your turn. And you end the turn. And what that means is you exile all spells and abilities from the stack, including this card. The player whose turn it is discards down to their maximum hand size, damage wears off, and this turn and until end of turn effects end. I really have a soft spot for cards like this. I think they just do what they say they do really well, and just ending a turn is something that's like very, very final. Longtime listeners of the show know, my proclivity for Sundial of the Infinite. And unfortunately for this card, it incentivizes you to cast it on your turn. So I think if you were going to cast it on your turn, like best case scenario, you're probably using it as a counterspell, and hopefully that's happening like at the end of your turn when you've already done everything that you want to do.
Or if there's something that's going away, something powerful that's going away at the end of turn, say you like reanimated something and it's going to be sacrificed at the end of the turn, you could use it as like a one-shot Sundial and just keep it around.
Riley, that is a classic Sundial of the Infinite play. Exactly.
Yeah.
9 lives.
But
9 lives. This is the card.
Yeah, that would work.
That would save your life. Yeah.
So if you have your own way of getting rid of an enchantment off the battlefield, do it purposefully, and then just end the turn so you don't lose.
Bingo.
Yeah, it's interesting. But like in a 1v1 match, I mean, it's a little bit more versatile than an extra turn spell, because you've got that Sundial half, and then you've got the basically extra turn half. Like you can counter like the first thing they play, and move to your turn.
Yeah.
Or you could just do it on their upkeep before they even draw if you're looking to just cut them off there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like if you have the mana to just like waste, it is 6 mana, but it can be used as like a extra turn spell.
Yeah.
Or if you just like really don't like one person at a 4-player pod.
I don't know if I'd recommend that.
Yeah,
exactly. I think you want to use it to like stop a combo player from going off. But if you want to be spiteful, I'm not going to tell you not to.
Yeah.
All right. Next up, let's move on to another common instant. So frantic inventory. It's 1 of anything in a blue. Draw a card, then draw cards equal to the number of cards named frantic inventory in your graveyard.
These collect 'em all cards are always kind of fun. Especially in limited, because there is no limit on the number of a particular card that you can play, which is something that I don't think a lot of people, especially players that have never played limited, know that that's a rule. I think I've told people that, and they've been surprised by it.
Yeah, there was only one exception ever to that rule, and that was 7 dwarves, because it actually put a cap on how many 7
Right.
dwarves you could actually have in your deck.
Nice.
I'd be surprised if in a draft somebody even saw like more than 7 dwarves though.
Yeah, good old 7 dwarves. But yeah, this is basically like a functional reprint of what was the card? It's a Pauper All-Star
Oh,
and Legacy All-Star.
yeah, I can see the artwork. Is it accumulated
Something-
knowledge?
Yes, accumulated knowledge. Yeah,
Jeez.
that's exactly it.
Dude.
Yeah, no, but accumulated knowledge, basically the same template, same card, and it already sees tons of play in Pauper and some play in Legacy if you're looking for an intuition pile.
Ew.
But basically, like I love this. I could definitely see it seeing play in Standard. Just as like, I mean, obviously the first copy is just a cantrip, which is not a great rate. But then from then on, drawing 2 cards, 3 cards, 4 cards, that's pretty great at instant speed. Pairs really well with counter spells. Next up, we've got Ghostly Pilfer. So for 1 and a blue, you get a Spirit Rogue. It's a 2/1, and when Ghostly Pilfer becomes untapped, you can pay 2, and if you do, you draw a card. Whenever an opponent casts a spell from anywhere other than their hand, draw a card, and you can discard a card to have Ghostly Pilfer unblockable this turn, become unblockable this turn, basically.
He does it all.
This is kind of interesting. This is, what is that artifact that you tap and discard a card to make something unblockable?
Key to the City.
Yeah,
Key to the City. So it's kind of like key to the City on a single body.
Yeah.
exactly. But it also has that bonus, like if an opponent casts a spell from anywhere other than the hand, you get to draw a card.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so like even in Commander, this can be some like incidental card draw because if people are casting their commanders and stuff, you still get to draw cards off that.
Yeah, I could see it, seeing a bit of play in Eureka or something of a similar sort where you're trying to get in with a bunch of little dinky unblockable creatures.
Yeah, totally.
Unfortunately, with Eureka, I guess you wouldn't get the untap ability because it
would
you'd bounce to your hand.
yeah.
Next up, we have Miscast. It's a 1 blue for an instant. Counter target instant or sorcery spell unless its controller pays 3. So I don't know if this is going to see any standard play. This definitely isn't going to see a lot of limited play, if any, but I could definitely see this card taking the place of Dispel, which is a counter spell that costs 1 blue and it's an instant and it counters an instant spell. But it sees a fair bit of play in the CEDH format. And with Miscast, it hits twice as many targets as Dispel. And in CEDH, players don't normally have 3 mana to spare because you're really trying to scratch your way to a victory as quickly as possible. You know, it's like turn 3 or turn 4. You know, if you can set up a win, you're doing that, and you don't really have 3 mana to spare. So I'm definitely thinking about slotting this into the decks where it would make sense to put it. The decks where I already have a Dispel.
I could see it seeing play in like Vintage or Legacy, where obviously instants and sorceries are a little bit more predominant.
Yeah.
Just given that, I mean, Spell Pierce already sees play, and of course it's non-creature, so it's a little bit more broad. It can hit planeswalkers as well, but that extra mana is pretty big.
So next up, we have the Pursued Whale. This is 5 of anything and 2 blue for an 8/8. It's a rare. And when Pursued Whale enters the battlefield, each opponent creates a 1/1 red pirate creature token with this creature can't block, and creatures you control attack each combat if able. Spells your opponents cast that target Pursued Whale costs 3 more to cast.
Well,
It's just so dumb and thick.
and and you can use the Pursued Whale to block the red pirates, which is nice.
You can. But I like this card a lot because like it gives you those stupid dorks, because there's a lot of times in Commander where you don't want to attack with your creatures.
For sure.
Yeah, this makes you have to attack with them. So
That's a really underrated and I think underplayed strategy in Commanders, like you said, Eric, because I remember that one game we were playing. I was playing Yisan, like it was the three of us and Trevor, and I was playing Yisan, and Riley, you were playing, I think it was like a Torbrand deck maybe, and like you had a Goblin Spy Master, so you were giving everyone the 1/1 tokens, and everybody had to attack. And like I was swinging with, I was tutoring with Yisan on my turn so that I didn't have to attack with him, which is just not what you want to be doing. So it really does, like, if you don't want to lose your creatures to attacking and they have activated abilities, you're sacrificing using their abilities at instant speed so you don't have to attack into, like, I don't know, a pursued whale. So yes, it's very potent.
Yeah. This might wreck somebody in limited. I just see it like it coming down, them basically being forced to attack. This is probably going to be the biggest thing on the battlefield, and you're just going to pick off whatever you want to pick off with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're going to make the best trades. Yeah.
So that could be a finisher in limited, but otherwise, it's got so many words on it, but I just don't think it does much of anything for 7 mana.
Yeah.
I'm first picking this big boy.
It's so thick. All right. It's my go?
Yes.
All right. I'm just distracted by whales. Next up, we've got See the Truth. So for 1 and a blue, we've got a sorcery that says, look at the top 3 cards of your library, put one of those cards into your hand and the rest onto the bottom of your library in any order. Notably in any order, not a random order. That's kind of interesting. And if the spell was cast from anywhere other than your hand, put each of those cards into your hand instead. So basically a draw 3 for 2 if you can, cast it with cast from your graveyard.
Yeah.
That's pretty dope.
Yeah, I think this card definitely has a lot of value tied to it.
It's not amazing on the front end, right? Like if you're just casting it from your hand, it's just kind of like a weak anticipate, like a sorcery speed anticipate.
Yeah, but then it's like if your deck is built to be able to cast this out of the graveyard.
Or out of the top of your library with Elsha.
Yeah. Ooh, maybe I should slot this into Elsha.
Next up, we have Shackle Geist. Shackle Geist is 1 and a blue for a spirit at rare. It's a 2/2 with flying. Shackle Geist can block only creatures with flying, and you can tap 2 untapped spirits you control to tap target creature you don't control.
Spirits got a new toy?
Yeah. I think so. Me and Rylan were talking about this card in the Spirits and just how powerful that can be, because obviously you're playing with a tempo deck, so you're going to have a lot of creatures on the board. And being only able to tap down their only flyer can just really get you swinging in there all the time. So, and it's cool because like it's just tap 2 untapped spirits you control. So the turn you play Shacklegeist, you can use him as one of the spirits since you can't attack with it anymore, and then one of your other spirits as well.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so next up we have the Stormwing Entity. This is a rare creature elemental, 3 of anything and 2 blue for a 3/3. This spell costs 2 and a blue less to cast if you've cast an instant or sorcery spell this turn. It also has flying, it also has prowess, and also when it enters the battlefield, you get to scry 2. Like this card just has a lot of value on it for what it is.
Oh, absolutely. Well, absolutely.
It reminds me a lot of like Illusory Angel, but just with way more stuff going on.
Yeah. I always love slinging spells, so I'll definitely want to throw this into it. I think like prowess definitely has a home here, so I'm going to be playing some Is It Prowess, and this is a super good creature. Even if you cast like a 1 mana spell, this only costs another 2 for how strong
it is.
A 2
mana 3/3 prowess flyer.
Yeah.
Scries 2 when it enters the battlefield. Like what the hell? It just gets more ridiculous the further I look at it.
Yeah. Too bad it didn't have flash.
Oh, yeah. Let's see how many more words we can get on it.
Well,
just reduce that font size to 6.
Just put a comma after flying and put flash.
Yeah, there's space. There's space for a few more keywords there, honestly.
Yeah, come on.
Yeah, flying questing beast.
Oh man.
Okay. Next up, we've got Sublime Epiphany. So for 4 blue, we get an instant that says choose one or more. You can counter target spell. You can counter target activated or triggered ability. You can return target non-land permanent to its owner's hand. You can create a token that's a copy of target creature you control. You can have target player draw a card, and you can buy a house. Like, I don't know.
So, like I'm thinking about this card in Commander, and obviously it's like this is a great limited card. I'd first pick this, but in most games of Commander, when you're at a point where you have enough mana to cast this, or you're holding up 6 mana to cast it before your turn, you're definitely going to get your mana's worth, because in most scenarios you're probably going to be able to counter a spell, bounce a permanent, and draw a card, which for 6 mana is great.
That's a lot of stuff.
And if you can also maybe create a creature token of a creature that you control, that's just icing on the cake. And I haven't heard too much talk about it in like casual Commander play, which, you know, in Commanders where this would see play. So I don't know if it just, you know, hasn't sparked anybody's interest, or that's just where I get the content from, but it does seem a little bit undervalued right now.
I'm gonna slot it, or I'm gonna find a way to slot it into my Brutaclad deck, just because it's doing so many things and creating a token.
Right. Yeah.
So it's perfect there.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you, Kevin, about how it's being undervalued. I think it's because the mana cost is so high.
Yeah.
But when you're really putting it all together, like creating a token that's a copy of a creature, that's like 3 mana. Countering a spell, that's like 2 mana. Plus returning a permanent is like another 2 mana, and you're drawing a card, which is like 2 mana as well.
Yeah.
So you're getting so much value out of this card that I think it is going to be like it. I would put it in Commander decks. It's good.
Yeah. I think in the long term it will see a lot of play, because it is sort of like well, it's, you know, like Mystic Confluence or Cryptic Command, like, you know, those cards see a fair bit of play in Commander, especially Mystic Confluence, and it. I mean, can you imagine if Sublime Epiphany was choose one or more, and you could choose them multiple times? Like, I don't know what the wording is on those cards, but it's like choose 3. So let's say this is choose 5, and you can choose one mode more than once. Like that would be insane.
Yeah.
Yeah. This reminds me a lot of like the Confluence cycle.
Yeah.
But notably, like each mode has a target.
Yes.
Which I think is really important, because you can't, like, even if one of those modes becomes an illegal target, the remaining targets are still gonna be able to resolve the spell, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's really cool that they decided to also, like, I could see this card just having counter target spell, but they did go the step above to give it the activated and triggered ability counter as well, which is awesome.
Next up, we have Teferi, Master of Time. Teferi is a 2 and 2 blue legendary planeswalker, mythic rare. He has 3 loyalty. He has a static ability, which is you may activate loyalty abilities of Teferi, Master of Time on any player's turn anytime you could cast an instant. His +1 is draw a card, then discard a card. His -3 is target creature you don't control phases out. And his -10 is take 2 extra turns after this one. Nice.
Yeah.
So we definitely had like a discussion about this card a lot, and I was really like showing it towards how much people don't like small Teferi. I think this card
Time Raveler, right?
Yeah.
So
I think this card is actually not gonna make as much feel bads. And the reason for this is because Time Raveler, you can't cast any instant spells, right? And so once that happens, like that really can shut down some stuff your deck can do. But the other thing is that his -3 bounces something while the Master of Time is only phasing something out. So you don't have to replay that spell. You're not using up more of your mana. It's still going to come back on your next turn.
Yeah, it's just a slight tempo loss.
Yeah.
But no additional cost for mana or anything like that.
Yeah, so I think while this is still very powerful, because if you think about it, every single turn you're going to be getting +2, technically, because you can do the +1 on each player's turn. So
in Commander you're going to get a bunch of activations, but like it is a looting ability. It's not card draw, right? It's not card advantage. It's just like card selection, card filtering.
Yeah.
But notably, an interesting thing, since phasing doesn't cause permanents to change zones, they just are treated like they don't exist. Like there's no opportunity if you phase out somebody's commander, there's no opportunity for them to put it into the command zone. So might come up here and there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You can get rid of a commander for a turn for sure.
Yeah.
And that is, that leads me to my next point. You should always have a sacrifice outlet. So if somebody tries to get your commander with some shady shit like this, you can just be like, boom, sacrifice.
Well, it will come back. I don't think it would be worth it to sacrifice it and pay the additional tax, but who knows? Different situations call for different measures.
I also get to talk about the other whale we wanted to talk about.
Nice.
It's a whale tribal.
So this one's uncommon. It is the Waker of Waves. 5 of anything and 2 blue for a 7/7. Creatures your opponents control get -1/-0. And then you can pay 1 and a blue to discard the Waker of Waves, look at the top 2 cards of your library, put one of them into your hand and the other into your graveyard. That's just like better cycling.
Yeah, better cycling as far as like in a vacuum.
Yeah.
Obviously, it doesn't trigger cycling triggers.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
But it's also like, this is good to pick in limited because if you do have it early, you can just...
Yeah,
in quotations, cycle it away, but you're getting to look at 2 cards, so...
Now, interesting thing is, would you first pick this whale, or would you first pick... Like, if you had the choice between both the whales, would you pick this one, or would you pick the other one?
I'd pick this
and the other one was a rare.
Because this one lets you... you get card advantage. No, you don't get card advantage.
Yeah.
You discard the whale, but...
If I was...
I don't know now.
It's more flexible at any point in the game, right?
Yeah.
Like, the other option is you could have the other whale stuck in your hand at the beginning of the game for 8-9 turns until you finally get to 7 mana and then slam it down.
Yeah,
But
like...
this, you could just fix your hand.
Totally. I play limited 2 ways. Sometimes I just like to have fun, and other times I like to... win. If I'm playing to
I
win...
find both of those categories are in the same category
Yeah,
for
me too.
I seriously, on my mood, I would actually pick either or of these.
That's fair.
I feel Waker of Waves is better because of the ability it has.
Yeah.
But Pursued Whale is just a fun card,
Yeah. I hear you. I hear you. But, I mean, this makes all of your opponent's creatures smaller, so it might save you a little bit more than Pursued Whale.
Yeah, definitely. So let's move on to black.
We've got Demonic Embrace. So for 1 black, you get an enchantment aura that says enchant creature. Enchanted creature gets +3/+1 and has flying, is a demon in addition to its other types. And you may cast Demonic Embrace from your graveyard by paying 3 life and discarding a card in addition to paying its other costs. Wow, okay.
Yeah, this sort of really gets around, not really gets around, but it does sort of adjust for the 2-for-1 risk of auras, of auras on creatures, because you can bring it back from the graveyard after your creature gets destroyed, which is kind of nice.
Yeah, I think this card is going to be really scary in aggro decks because you're probably going to be more low to the ground. You're going to have extra lands to get rid of, and then so you're always going to be able to make your creature be +3/+1. And the flying really pushes this card over the top because you can give any of your cards evasion. So
yeah, that's pretty spicy.
Yeah,
I think it's a little bit more balanced than what you would see with something like Rancor, in the sense that like you still have to discard a card to be able to get it back from the graveyard. So there's a bit of an exchange there, but overall I think it's still pretty strong.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. It's like a newer powered down Rancor in a way.
That's the opposite of power creep. Next up, we have Eliminate. It is 1 and a black for an instant. Destroy target creature or planeswalker with converted mana cost 3 or less. Boom.
Bye, Teferi.
So we finally got our answer for Oko.
Yeah, they should unban him now.
Yeah.
Oh God, no. Oh.
I think this card's interesting though. 2 mana to just like get rid of something at instant speed again is just really good value.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did make the joke that there's a lot of people complaining about, oh no, there's gonna be a new Teferi, and then it's like the card that they give us that can destroy a planeswalker doesn't hit the new Teferi. But yeah, still good removal.
Yeah, but the next card does take care of Teferi if you can connect.
Yeah, so we got a rare here. So the Hooded Blightfang is 2 of anything and a black for a 1/4 snake. It's got Death Touch. And whenever a creature you control with Death Touch attacks, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. Whenever a creature you control with Death Touch deals damage to a planeswalker, destroy that planeswalker. I really like that ability.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And the last time we saw this kind of thing, that kind of ability, was with the uncommon Vraska from War of the Spark. The 1/1 assassin creature tokens that she created did the same thing.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which is still in standard, so you could use that to deal with Teferi. But what I love about Hooded Blightfang is that even if you don't connect, that like your opponent losing that 1 life is inevitable.
Yeah, and notably, the Death Touch damage to a planeswalker doesn't have to be combat damage.
Right.
So if you put on a what is it, a Meridian Longbow or something like that,
Viridian.
it basically turns your creature into a pinger.
Mm-hmm.
You could just start pinging down people's planeswalkers. So Death Touch Tribal, that's a tribe that I want to push for.
When is this
going to
get a
probably going to be
keyword?
another janky brew.
Yeah, and that's the other good part about that second ability is also it's just a creature you control with Death Touch. It's not like the Hooded Blightfang himself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Next up, we've got Necromentia. So for 1 black, you get a sorcery that says, choose a card name other than a basic land card name. Search target opponent's graveyard, hand, and library for any number of cards with that name and exile them. That player shuffles their library, then creates a 2/2 black zombie creature token for each card exiled from their hand this way.
So we've had other cards like this before that can stop like somebody's combo deck or something and just like take a card out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Personally, I feel like this is the best one so far because the downside has been like if you take a card out of their hand, they still get to redraw. This time, all they get is a 2/2 black zombie.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, who cares?
Yeah, this will definitely strip combo players apart.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I like I just like the overall flexibility. Like you can pick things out of their hand and their graveyard as well. So
yeah,
seems dope.
Next up, we have. Oh, what were you gonna say, Eric?
I was gonna say that'll probably be a really nice foil too.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, those colors.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And it's probably gonna be cheap.
Yep.
Well, yeah, unless it sees standard play.
Yeah.
It'll see some, but I don't think it's gonna be like an expensive card.
Yeah, it's gonna be a sideboard card, if anything.
Yep.
Next up, we have Peer into the Abyss. It is a sorcery at rare that costs 4 and 3 black. Target player draws cards equal to half the number of cards in their library and loses half their life, rounded up each time. So on Discord, we were talking about how cool the art is on this card, and if you haven't seen it yet, go and check it out on whatever device you're listening to this on right now. But that aside, effects like this in Commander are just going to win you the game in a lot of scenarios because you're just drawing so many cards, and half your life, it's nothing if you're going to win the game.
Creek.
Yeah. Where's Creek when you need him?
Yeah. Yeah, I think this is a super powerful commander card. It's definitely going to see commander play.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, just a great way to get a ton of cards in your hand, for sure.
Yeah, it's very, very reminiscent of Doomsday. I feel like it would do the a very similar effect. Like you're bound to draw something that's gonna win you the game.
Yeah, exactly. Doomsday, or what's that other one that's an instant that's been like creeping up in price like crazy? Because it sees CEDH play. It's black.
I don't know.
Not sure. Yeah.
It's the one that lets you, like, you reveal cards and you lose life based on the total. It's a one-word card
ad
name.
nauseam?
No, 2 words. Yeah, ad nauseum. That's like a similar type thing where you're just but this is you're getting way more cards than you would get with ad nauseum. I mean, in a lot of ad nauseum decks, like, you know, you do a lot of eggs, right? So you don't lose a lot of life. But yeah, cards like this are just crazy powerful.
Also, to touch again on the art, I didn't think we would get something that's like this kind of creepy again. So I think that's cool.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
No kidding.
Yeah, the art's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Just like the deeper you look into it, it's just like more faces eating more faces.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Good job, Izzy. All right, next up we have a common instant, Village Rites, which is 1 black. As an additional cost to cast the spell, sack a creature, draw 2 cards. For 1 mana.
We've seen cards like this a lot in black that do this kind of thing, whether it's sacrifice a creature or something else, you know, like costly
like
plunder or right.
Yeah, but notably those were at 2 mana. So this is the first time that we've seen this effect at only 1 black mana.
Well, it's a great effect.
I thought it was spicy.
Yeah, and it's, you know, it's always great. You know, it's like the sacrificing creature, you know, is an additional cost, but if you have this in a deck where you care about death triggers or things just leaving the battlefield, then it's, you know, you're getting that benefit instead of an additional cost.
Yeah, totally.
Oh yeah.
Okay, let's move on to red. We got through black pretty quick.
Get out of here.
All right, I'm sorry.
All right, next up we've got Brash Taunter. So for 4 and a red, we've got a goblin. It's a rare. It's a 1/1. What? 5 mana for a 1/1? Wait, indestructible. When Brash Taunter is dealt damage, it deals that much damage to target opponent. And you can pay 2 a red and tap it to have him fight another target creature.
Ooh.
You hit like a kobold.
That's a lot of fun. That's like it's kind of like Stuffy Doll-esque.
Yeah, I just want to like starve extinction people to death. Like, it's pretty great.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
I'm a huge fan of Boros Reckoner, and so whenever I get an effect like this, I definitely gravitate towards the card instantly.
Yeah.
And yeah, this is kind of like Boros Reckoner, but also Stuffy Doll combined, because you do have the indestructibility there.
Yeah.
But getting to pay 3 mana, like if you're playing against somebody who has big creatures, you can pay 3 mana to, like, you know, deal 8 or deal 10 damage to them or something.
Yeah, totally.
And the nice thing about Brash Taunter is, unlike Stuffy Doll, like Stuffy Doll targets a creature as it enters the battlefield.
Targets an opponent.
So it can, basically, like, it's once it's set on a player, unless you can bounce it and restart it, it's only going to be targeting that player.
Right.
Yeah.
That's true.
But this you can just hit anyone whenever you want.
Yeah.
And then, again, especially in Commanders.
You're messing with me.
Star of Extinction works great with this card. Oh, what's that red board wipe? Oh my god.
Blasphemous Act.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Great Blasphemous Act.
Yeah. Boy.
Yeah, you could really keep everybody's life total just like in line and close to each other. And if anybody steps out of line or tries to gain life, you just kind of keep the table level. That would be a lot of fun.
Yeah. And this is definitely a new toy for my Fire Song and Sunspeaker deck, so.
Oh, yeah. You run a lot of damage-based board wipes in there, so.
Yeah. Yay.
Next up, we have Chandra's Incinerator. It is a elemental rare that costs 5 and a red. It's a 6/6. This spell costs X less to cast, where X is the total amount of non-combat damage dealt to your opponents this turn. It has trample. And whenever a source you control deals non-combat damage to an opponent, Chandra's Incinerator deals that much damage to target creature or planeswalker that player controls. Whew, that's a mouthful. So first of all, I love the art on this card. It really reminds me of something out of like the Dark or like Fallen Empires or the Homelands era of artwork.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, check out that moon. The moon is just like crumbling.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's not good. Um, and like I could definitely see a lot of situations where you could easily cast this on turn 3 for one red mana in a dedicated burn deck. I mean, like turn 3 double lightning bolt, then you drop this guy. Can't go wrong.
I mean, you could cast it on turn 2 in modern. You suspend a rift bolt on turn 1, and turn 2 you lightning bolt them, rift bolt them, play this.
Ooh, that's spicy. I love it.
Yeah.
And then like all of your burn spells, you're already hitting your opponent, but now you get the bonus of hitting your opponent's creatures while this is out.
Or planeswalkers. Yeah.
Or planeswalkers, yeah.
But just imagine a deck trying to deal with 6 CMC 6/6 with trample on turn 2 or turn 3. Like you're not going to be able to fatal push this thing.
No, you can't. Like the only thing that deals with it is path.
Yeah.
Right away.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this is a great card. I'm definitely going to be picking up a few copies of it.
We also have more Chandra cards. Chandra's Pyreling. So this guy's an uncommon. One of anything in a red for a 1/3 elemental lizard. Whenever a source you control deals non-combat damage to an opponent, Chandra's Pyreling gets +1/+0 and gains double strike until end of turn. Which
You think Cavalcade will make a comeback?
that's what I was thinking when I saw this card.
I mean, there's a short window where it's still going to be legal in standard, but
So play your Cavalcade deck now.
next up we've got Conspicuous Snoop. So for red, you get a Goblin Rogue. It's a 2/2, and it says play with the top card of your library revealed. You may cast Goblin spells from the top of your library, and as long as the top card of your library is a Goblin card, Conspicuous Snoop has all activated abilities of that card.
Conspicuous.
Oh, sorry, Conspicuous.
All good. Yeah, this card is definitely made. What was that? Bogart Harbinger kind of
Yeah,
skyrocket in
Bogart
price.
Harbinger,
Yeah,
yeah.
Bogart. Yeah,
Yeah.
because of that 2-card combo.
You get you play Conspicuous Snoop on turn 2. Turn 3, play Bogart Harbinger. You get Kiki Jiki. You have Conspicuous Snoop make a billion copies of itself. Then you blink, or you make a copy of Bogart Harbinger, get a Mog Fanatic on top of your library, and sacrifice all your Conspicuous Snoops to dome your opponent.
Yeah, right.
You can also get Sling Gang Lieutenant.
That is true.
Does that one do the same thing? Like it's a sacrifice outlet?
Yeah, sacrifice for goblins. Yeah.
Yeah, sack
To-
goblins.
to
Target player
drain.
loses one, you gain one.
Okay.
When do you think they'll make drain a keyword?
Yeah,
They're probably
right?
doing it for Jumpstart. They just haven't released those packs yet.
There you go.
But yeah, this is pretty cool. I like the combo. I think it's pretty fun. It's just like another. I don't think it's too powerful or anything like that. So
Yeah, I agree.
I could see like a Rakdos Goblins deck in Modern would be fun.
Yeah.
yeah, if you get the nuts, you can win on turn 3.
Next up, we have Fiery Emancipation. It is 3 and 3 red for a mythic rare enchantment. If a source you control would deal damage to if a source you control would deal damage to a permanent or player, it deals triple that damage to that permanent or player instead. Oof.
Holy bananas!
WotC just felt like Dictate of the Twin Gods wasn't enough.
Yeah, double damage wasn't enough. Furnace of Wrath, not enough.
Yeah. No, we got to make it one-sided and we got to triple it. Thanks.
That'll show them. That'll make them buy the packs.
Fire Song
Yeah.
and Sun Speaker.
Oh yeah.
This thing, and it doesn't even care about a red source.
No,
It's just a
a
source.
source.
This card is just messed up.
Yeah, this is going to see a ton of commander play for sure.
As you all know, I like dragons,
Yes.
and so
Do you?
yeah.
Nice.
And in this set, our rare dragon is Gadrak the Crown Scourge. It is also legendary, so you can do a commander. So it's 2 of anything and a red for a 5/4. That's 3 mana for a 5/4.
Oh boy, what's the downside?
It's got flying, and Gadrak can't attack unless you control 4 or more artifacts. And then at the beginning of your end step, create a treasure token for each non-token creature that died this turn.
Okay, so they don't have to be your creatures, which is nice.
Just any creatures.
Yeah.
So, and then you can make sure, like, if like a few creatures died, you can just play this guy out
Yeah, for sure.
on that turn. Get some extra artifacts and stuff. So, I'm thinking it could be pretty powerful. I do want to play around with it in standard to see if I can make it work.
Yeah, he's a spicy boy. Next up, we've got Terror of the Peaks.
I will say this one's better.
For 3 red, you get a dragon. It's a 5/4 with flying. It says spells your opponents cast that target Terror of the Peaks cost an additional 3 life to cast. Ooh. And whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, Terror of the Peaks deals damage equal to that creature's power to any target.
Yikes. The additional 3 life just sucks so much, but how laissez-faire are we with our life compared to paying 3 mana? If like mana leak was like pay 3 life, you're like, yeah, I'll pay 3 life, I don't care. But the mana, whoa, it's precious.
Totally. This card I think is like really interesting though. I can see a lot of commander decks just running it because you do have big creatures. You're like playing a 7/7, you're like, all right.
Or you just have like a Norn the Wary.
yeah. Greasy.
I was looking at this. I was looking at this card for my Norn deck.
Put it in. Do it.
I might. I'll think about it.
Do it for me, Riley.
It's 5 mana and it's not hitting everybody. It's only hitting one person or one target, I should say.
Right.
But it's a little bit more flexible in that I can hit a creature.
Yeah.
We are going to move on to green here, the last color in the color pie. And we're going to start with Burlfist Oak. It is an uncommon tree folk that costs 2 and 2 green. It's a 2/3. And whenever you draw a card, Burlfist Oak gets +2/+2 until end of turn. That's a solid beef.
Pretty burly.
No kidding.
I had to.
Yeah.
So, on your turn, it's going to be a 4/5 at least, basically.
Yeah, when you're going to want to attack, like this guy's usually going to be like a 4/5, which is pretty sweet.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you have a way of just drawing at least one more card, I mean, that's a 6/7, which is getting pretty dicey, so...
It's interesting to see that green got this effect, because over the last few sets, like red and blue have kind of had that sub-theme of, whenever you draw your second card or whenever you draw a card, like something happens.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So green this time around has received this kind of effect.
You guys remember... Oh, my brain is not working.
Thragtusk?
The whale?
Anyways, we have... Our next card is a mythic rare. It is Elder Gargaroth, which is 3 mana and 2 green mana for a 6/6. It has Vigilance, Reach, and Trample. Whenever Elder Gargaroth attacks or blocks, choose one. Create a 3/3 green beast creature token. You gain 3 life. Draw a card.
So I mentioned Thragtusk because this is like Thragtusk on steroids.
So what happens when you bounce a Thragtusk with Teferi?
You get the beast. Or does it have to die?
You get the beast because it cares about leaving the battlefield, right?
Yeah.
But Elder Gargaroth just leaves the battlefield.
Yeah, that's true. But I'm thinking about this I saw this card and I was thinking about it for Modern, and I don't think I'll be siding this into Tron just because of the double green. And I only run 2 Thragtusks in my sideboard as it is, but I think this could have a place in Mono Green Stompy in Pioneer. I haven't really taken a look at the deck and see like what I would take out, but this card definitely would fit in there somewhere, I'm sure. But your point about Teferi is a good one, Riley.
But it's 5 mana for a 6/6. Look at that rate. And it has Vigilance and Reach and Trample. What is going on?
It's crazy. It's amazing.
An incredible
card.
It's amazing what you can do with with creatures these days and still make them unplayable.
Before I was going to say, do you guys remember Questing Beast? Because it had so much text, and so does this thing. So.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Oh, yeah.
That was what
but
there was
so much there was so much text on Questing Beast that I couldn't remember his name.
That's the last thing you're looking at,
That's
right?
Perfect.
All right, next up we've got Garruk Unleashed. So for 2 green, we get a Planeswalker, Garruk, with 4 starting loyalty. He's got a +1 ability that says up to 1 target creature gets +3/+3 and gains trample until end of turn. He has a -2 that says create a 3/3 green beast creature token. If an opponent controls more creatures than you, put a loyalty counter on Garruk. And he has a -7 that says you get an emblem with, at the beginning of your end step, You may search your library for a creature card, put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle your library.
Well, that's a pretty good ultimate for Commander.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it does sit there for like a turn cycle, but if it did it at your upkeep, then it doesn't have, then it has summoning sickness, and then it's sitting there for a turn cycle anyway. So I think I kind of prefer the end step trigger anyway.
I found the -2 quite interesting on this card since it can kind of be a -1. I don't know if we've ever had something like that before.
No, I don't. Not that I can recall.
Yeah, you're like minusing 2, and it's like, oh, but wait, if this clause happens, put one back on.
Yeah, that is.
I don't know. This Garrick seems pretty medium to me. Like, I don't think he'll see play in Commander. He just doesn't really do anything. I mean, he creates a 3/3 beast, but great, you got a 3/3 beast.
Yeah.
Like, he doesn't draw cards like some of the other Garricks do.
Or red.
He doesn't. He doesn't uptick to create a beast, right? He downticks to create a beast.
His uptick is only the making a creature bigger. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. He just
Medium.
I feel like if he did get to -7, obviously that's great. You could get him out with doubling season on the battlefield and ultimate him right away. So that's notable. But other than that, he seems pretty medium.
He's no Garrick Wildspeaker, that's for sure.
That's what I always say.
Next up, we have Garrick's Uprising. It's an uncommon enchantment that costs 2 and a green. When Garrick's Uprising enters the battlefield, if you control a creature with power 4 or greater, draw a card. Creatures you control have trample. And whenever a creature with power 4 or greater enters the battlefield under your control, draw a card. So this card is a lot like Elemental Bond or Garrick's Pack Leader with a few differences. Unlike the 2 cards I just mentioned, this card cares about creatures with 4 or more power instead of 3. So it does cast a smaller net, but it does replace itself if you control a creature with power 4 or greater, which is a big selling point for me. Any card that does that, it always just kind of takes it up another level. I also think that a lot of decks that want this effect are already running Elemental Bond and Garrick's Pack Leader, and they'll just be happy to add this redundancy.
Yeah, and plus like that little bit of that little cherry on top of creatures you control have trample, like that's awesome. Mm-hmm. Like it didn't need it.
No, it definitely didn't. But it's awesome.
It's just gravy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so in decks like Angry Omnath, this card's perfect for that deck because all your elementals are 5/5s.
Ooh.
Yeah. And now they have trample and they bolt when they die.
So good.
That's a lot of value.
Yeah.
I'm going to talk about a rare card here. It's Jolrail, 1 Vuli Recluse.
Nice. She's
back.
I
think I said that right.
You did. That was great.
Pretty damn good. You did better than me.
So it's 1 of anything and a green for a 1/2 human druid. Whenever you draw your second card each turn, create a 2/2 green cat creature token. And then also for 4 of anything and 2 green, until end of turn, creatures you control have base power and toughness XX, where X is the number of cards in your hand. I think this is also, again, just like how we were talking about with the burly guy. It's another
the thick tree folk.
Yeah, the burl fist oak. Yeah, it's another card draw effect where it's like a lot of time we see this in blue and such, where it's whenever you draw your second card, something happens. And now we're seeing it in green here again. So another interesting card draw thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I mean green's just like the catch-all color, so why not?
Yeah,
green can do everything.
All right, next up we've got Spore Web Weaver. For 2 and a green, we get a spider. It's a 1/4. It's got reach and hexproof from blue. So last time we saw hexproof from a color, I think was in Dominaria when it was first introduced. Whenever Spore Web Weaver is dealt damage, you gain 1 life, and you create a 1/1 green sapperling creature token. Another Dominaria favorite.
And there's definitely a lot of times where in games against flying decks and stuff, we do have these creatures that have reach, and they don't have very much power, but they do have a lot of toughness, so you can just constantly block. But now at this point, it's much more of a big detriment for our opponent when they keep swinging in we are still gaining an extra life back and making a 1/1, so it's making our board bigger as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, boys, hear me out.
Sure.
We got a 3-card combo in Limited. We've got Heroic Intervention, Spore Web Weaver, and Terror of the Peaks. So, from there, we can just make infinite 1/1 Sapperlings and smash face. I guess you have to wait a turn cycle, but,
Yeah.
Still.
You got to let us know if you pull it off. That sounds good.
All it requires is, 3 rares?
Yeah, that's nothing.
3 rares, 3 packs. Sometimes there's more rares.
3 playable rares.
Yeah.
It's all right. One time in War of the Spark draft, I got a 4th pick Bolus's Citadel. And I was like, what the hell? Who's passing Bolus's Citadel? It was first pack, and I fucking slayed that draft. That was ridiculous.
That's funny. I think out of all those cards, you may see the Spore Web Weaver get passed.
But, I mean, even then, Spore Web Weaver is great.
It's a good card.
It can block for days, and it just poops out little 1/1s. Why not?
Little spider poops.
What's that?
I said little spider poops. The last green card here we have is Truffle Snout. It's 2 and a green for a common boar with it's a 2/2. When Truffle Snout enters the battlefield, choose 1, put a 1/1 counter on Truffle Snout, or you gain 4 life. What a cutie pie.
He's just so happy.
Yeah.
He's the happiest little pig. He's happier than a pig in shit. Come on.
Yeah, he looks great. And he's got war paint on him. That's great.
Yeah, he's ready for battle.
Yeah, the art with the markings on him and such actually kind of reminds me a little bit of Princess Mononoke.
Oh yeah,
nice.
Yeah. When the boars are wearing the war paint, that's a lot more. That's a lot darker than what's going on here. But yeah, I do see the resemblance.
It definitely is a lot darker. Yeah.
But honestly, in Limited, this is just a solid playable. At its worst, its baseline, it's a 3/3 for 3, which is good in a core set by all means.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in a situation where you need that life, you got that flexibility. So I'm a big fan, and you just can't not appreciate this little pig.
All right, let's go to the colorless cards. We have Chromatic Orrery, which is a 7 mana legendary artifact. You may spend mana as though it were mana of any color, just like Chromatic Lantern and such. And then we can tap to add 5 colorless mana, which can be mana of any color we want. And then you can pay 5 and tap it to draw a card for each color among permanents you control.
At first glance, I didn't really. I mean, I kind of just felt nothing for this card. I didn't like it or hate it, but 7 mana for a 5 mana producing Brock is a pretty good rate. Not to mention its other abilities, right? But even in a colorless deck that can ramp really hard, this card will do some work.
Yeah, it can really bump you up there.
Yeah, which is the floor, right? This card wants you to be playing in a deck with as many colors as possible.
Yeah, and I feel like it's going to be at its best when you're able to cheat it into play. Because paying 7 mana, obviously you're going to be able to get 5 of that mana back right away. But even still, if you're playing it fair, that's probably not the strongest way you can be playing it.
Yeah, Kevin, would you put this in your Duretti deck?
Yeah, I might. I mean, I might even put it in my Kozilek deck, because there's a lot of situations where I have 7 mana, on turn 3.
And my real question is, I have a hard time justifying a slot for Coveted Jewel. And would I play Coveted Jewel in a mono red artifacts deck over Chromatic Orrery? And I think I would, because Coveted Jewel, when it enters the battlefield, it draws you 3 cards, and it can tap for 3 colored mana. It's 6 mana, of course.
Yeah.
But just that ability to instantly draw those cards,
Yeah.
I think has a little bit more flexibility than Chromatic Orrery in a monocolored deck. But in a deck like Golos, like my Golos Lands deck, I'd be happy to slam Chromatic Orrery. It's a card draw engine, and it's something that you can cheat into play off Golos's activation, right?
Yeah. Oh, totally.
Yeah. Yeah, very true.
Get another spin. Next up, we've got Maze Mind Tome. So for 2 mana, you get an artifact, And this one's pretty interesting. You can tap to put a page counter on Maze Mind Tome to scry 1, or you can pay 2 and tap to put a page counter on Maze Mind Tome and draw a card. And when there are 4 or more page counters on it, exile it, and if you do, you gain 4 life. So I thought I'd include this. It was pretty interesting from the sense that it reminds me a lot of Endless Atlas.
Yeah.
It's a little less restrictive because Endless Atlas, of course, cares about I think you have to have 3 of the same basic lands to start activating it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But of course, it's got like a clock on it as well, right? You can only activate it so many times. So I could definitely see you, scrying once when you play it, and then from there using it 3 times to draw 3 cards over the course of the game, and then when you're done with it, gaining 4 life. So I don't know, just if you're looking for ways to get a little bit of an engine going, I think it's not the worst thing you could include.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. No, I agree. It really does. When you really break it down, it does net you quite a lot of value. Next up, we have Spark Hunter Manticore. It's 3 mana for a 3/4 artifact creature. As an additional cost to cast this spell, discard a card. It has protection from planeswalkers, and you can pay 1. Spark Hunter Manticore deals 1 damage to target planeswalker, or you can pay 3, and Spark Hunter Manticore gains indestructible until end of turn.
It's a Masticore.
I was going to say.
Yeah.
This is like Masticores. There's a few in Magic already.
Yeah.
And in the line, I think this is kind of like one of the best ones.
I really like just the 1 mana for the 1 damage to a planeswalker. Like, this thing is just going to wreck Teferis, and anything that can wreck a Teferi is my kind of creature.
You guys have like Teferi PTSD.
If you were playing Standard,
Yeah.
and then also see it in Modern, oh my god. But yeah, I'm so done with Teferi and Standard. But yeah, you can obviously being able to just repeat that. You can just dump all your mana into killing your opponent's planeswalkers. Yes, please. This is great.
Yeah, it is a great. It is a great mana sink for sure. So let's move on to the gold cards.
So yeah, we've got an uncommon here, the Conclave Mentor. It is 1 green and 1 white for a 2/2 Centaur Cleric. If 1 or more 1/1 counters would be put on a creature you control, that many +1/+1/+1 counters are put on that creature instead. And then when Conclave Mentor dies, you gain life equal to its power. This is a lot like the Golgari Snake that kind of did the same thing.
Yeah. Winding Constrictor.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, he'll get huge.
Yeah.
Get thick. All right, next up we've got Obsessive Stitcher. So for 1 blue and a black, you get a human wizard. She's a 0/3, and she can tap to draw a card, then discard a card. She can also pay 2 blue and a black and tap her, sacrifice her, and return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield.
If she grew out her hair a little bit, she'd look like the Bride of Frankenstein.
Oh, yeah.
I really like this card for the flavor. It's that second ability where you're sacrificing her to get a creature back. So she's like reanimating creatures, and then, one of her experiments ends up killing her. And that's kind of what the ability is. I think that's really cool.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And if you look at the artwork, the hand that she's stitching on is actually her own hand.
Yeah.
Oh, what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's missing the hand.
Her stump is all bandaged up and she's stitching on her own hand.
Oh, weird. I didn't notice that.
Yeah, it's pretty creepy.
It's pretty crazy. But it's been a while since we've had a looter in Standard that's no cost to activate. Really, it's just a tap ability. I just like it. She feels like she does. She's like a toolbox reanimator spell, which, I mean, she's a little bit slow, a little bit clunky, but at the end of the day, she's versatile enough that I would definitely slot her into that kind of theme if I was in a Dimir reanimator theme.
Yeah, and then, I mean, it's also really great to use her as a blocker and then still get to tap to loot and stuff, so...
Oh, yeah.
The 0/3 is nice.
Next up, we have Rada, Heart of Keld. She costs 1 red and a green for a legendary creature, Elf Warrior, 3/3. As long as it's your turn, Rada Heart of Keld has first strike. You may look at the top card of your library anytime, and you may play lands from the top of your library. And her activated ability is 4 red-green. Rada gets +X until end of turn, where X is the number of lands you control. Mana sink.
It's like a Courser of Crufix that just wrecks people.
It's pretty sweet that she does get first strike on your turn as well. And then I also like these cards where we're not revealing the top of our deck. We can just look at the top card. And then the last ability, the other thing I find interesting is that Wizards usually puts the whole card name in the ability. Yeah. And this one time, for some reason, they decided not to, even though it looks like they have the space.
Well, we should send him an email. So we have one last section here just about the shrine cycle from this set. So we're going to start with Sanctum of All. Why don't you take it away, Eric?
The Sanctum of All is Wooburg. So white, blue, black, red, and green. It's a legendary enchantment shrine, which all of them are legendary enchantments. And so at the beginning of your upkeep, you may search your library and or graveyard for a shrine card, put it on the battlefield. If you search your library this way, shuffle it. And if an ability of another shrine you control triggers while you control 6 or more shrines, that ability triggers an additional time.
Whew.
That's pretty sweet. You can definitely do shrines in Commander. The thing I've thought of first right away is that they already put the other 5 shrines into Historic.
Right.
And now we're getting this Sanctum of All and 5 more shrines. So I think I'm going to be playing some shrines in Historic. It is pretty sweet that even if your shrines get destroyed, Sanctum of All can bring them back from the graveyard. Obviously, the weak point of this whole thing is that Sanctum of All itself doesn't have any protection of any sort. So you do have to really protect your Sanctum of All.
Yeah, I mean, the nice thing is that they're all enchantments, and those are historically the most difficult permanents to remove. Yeah, and like obviously, like each shrine, there's a whole cycle of shrines here, and then we have a whole cycle of shrines from the Kamigawa block originally those were the first time I saw them was in Eternal Masters. I didn't know they were reprints at the time. But as you get more shrines, they get better. So you can really do like a tribal shrines theme, and the other shrines are uncommon. So even in limited, you might get a shrine thing going.
Totally.
Oh, yeah.
So with that, we are going to wrap up this episode. You can let us know if we missed any cards that you're interested in playing with from this set. And if you're still listening, thank you very much. And thanks, Ainsley, for the work that you do every week. She's our editor. If you want to find Riley on social media, where can people do that, Riley?
Yeah, you can tweet at me at RilesDayton, or you can follow me on Instagram at Riley_Dayton. And
you can find me on Instagram at CommandBeacon. And again, thanks for listening. We appreciate you.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye now. Bye.
Turn 1 Soul Ring.
Hey, Eric.
What?
Somebody told me you like dragons.
It was Eric.